Howdy folks, coming to you from a kind of a bad spot. Left the 111 mine, following the same path I came in on, and I got turned around. I'm now a half a mile from that spot in the wrong direction. Ended up going west somehow. So I've got a pretty good walk out of here. Gotta go due east. Always carry a compass. I've got two. So I know I need to go due east now. I'm not going to follow anything off the GPS because something's not quite right with it. So I know I need east. Got to cross over these mountains here. I'm going to go down there a bit. Cross over, it's a little bit easier. And then that should take me to the 107 mine, into the truck. Desert is not your friend. You screw up once, you're not paying attention, it can kill you. You gotta sit down, find some shade, cool down, collect your thoughts, take stock of where you are, what do you have for supplies, and then put a plan together to get out. If it was 105, 110, yeah, this would be a pretty bad spot to be in. But it's only showing like 90 right now, so I'm okay, and there's a little bit of a breeze. Kind of cool me down. So I'm gonna go I'm planning my route tree to tree, so I can go for maybe a couple hundred yards at a time. Get to the shade, rest up. Just because it's a smart way to do it. And I'll be putting this video up too. And just so you can, as a warning, that whole little spot I found back there with that little vein, I have no idea where that is now. I have no idea where it was. I thought it was behind the 112. I thought it was almost to the 111. I thought it was at the 111, almost to the 107. And I was going the wrong direction. Desert, it can screw with you. Until next time, folks. Bye-bye. Howdy folks, today is the day after my little fiasco out there in the desert where I ran out of water. Not a lot of fun. Actually pretty much all parts of it was not fun. Here I'm going to kind of show you where I think where things went wrong. You can see from the orange line, well actually you can kind of see where everything lines up. Where the orange line ends there in that little creek bottom, it's called a wash in Arizona. That's where the truck was. So the plan was go from there, follow that orange path to the 107, cut across those hills, and then kick up at the 111, and then follow that roughly the same path back out. I think that's about, I don't know, maybe about 6/10 of a mile tops round trip. Not very far. Didn't quite go as I had planned, to say the least. I always start my explorations minimum of 4 Gatorades and 1 water. That would have been plenty for that orange line. The problem where that orange line ends at the 111, I walked out up that hillside going to the northeast. That's following the blue line now, to the northeast, going sort of towards that 108. And somehow my GPS got jacked up. And I don't know if it was me or what. Where it peaks the northeast, if I'd have taken a right and gone straight east, I'd have been fine. I would have came out across that area, seen the wash, and I've been on my way. I think I was kind of looking at rocks too, so instead of going east from that point there, I started walking left, going due west. You can see that there across that one peak. Then followed that one wash, which is where I thought I was somewhere. So I don't know how I got back there. I really don't. I don't know how it happened. I've looked at it 100 times. Maybe not that many, but quite a bit. I just don't know where I was going. Anyway, so I ended up on the back of that one hill, coming down southwest to the Lost and Found vein. It's still in fairly decent shape at that point. I had plenty of liquid. It wasn't too hot. It's like 10 o'clock in the morning, give or take. So I was planning on doing this all pretty early in the day too, before it got too hot. I mean, it was pretty dang nice when I first started out. And you can see me in the 111 mine. I'm starting to sweat pretty bad. So I was losing some liquids in fairly quick fashion there. One thing I do at the truck before I leave the truck though is I pound down 1 full Gatorade just to kind of put that extra liquid in my system, and then I carry those 4+1 with me no matter where I go. Honestly, for a trip this long, 8+2 would have been cutting it kind of close as far as safety. Having 4+1 is why I feel like I've got a massive hangover today. Pretty bad shape still. Anyway, lost and found vein where that pin is actually probably a little bit too far to the southwest. I've got the coordinates on that video so you can kind of see where I think it was. When I crested the point between found and lost and realized I was lost, I saw a mine out in the distance, and I couldn't figure out what the heck mine that would be. Why? I've never seen that mine, the tailings pile, the mine dump, anywhere before. Then I came down to where I realized where I was lost, and then if you look due east, how that wash is really jagged there, that's got a 25-foot cliff on it. And you can actually zoom in if you drop down into Google Earth in that general area. You can see it's pretty sheer. That's when things got dicey. You can kind of tell my voice there, I'm not very animated. I'm kind of losing energy a lot. At that point I had a half bottle of Gatorade and a half of water left, maybe 3/4 of water left. And you can see how far I've got to go across some really nasty hills to get back to where the truck is. Didn't get panicky. Just like I said, I sat down, took stock of where I was going, where I needed to be, got my compasses out and realized that I'd made a huge error. Didn't know how to get back to where I didn't want to backtrack my steps because I didn't know how far I'd come. Luckily I didn't try that because I'd been going actually in the worst spot there. So I made my way south to where I could actually cross that wash down there. Started moving back across, had to take a couple rests. Then where I get to that pin where it says sitting for 5 hours, that's what I did. Found a tree there, had pretty decent shade underneath it, pretty dense canopy, which is, relatively speaking, there's not full shade anywhere in this desert. Pulled out my, I have an emergency poncho I bring along, a little Coleman lightweight one. Put it up in the tree to give myself some extra shade. Put my handkerchief over my hard hat to give me extra shade. I was giving myself a sip of water or two about every 30 minutes to an hour. Still ran out pretty quick. Basically wanted to sit tight and wait for the weather to change. Just hoping for some cloud cover coming over. I knew we had some monsoon rains coming, some pretty intense thunderstorms. So I basically sat there for 5 hours waiting for those to hit. About 3:30. Let me back up. I do carry with me a, what's it called? 2 cold packs for this kind of reason. In case you get a high core body temperature, to kind of put those on your chest and they'll cool you down internally a little bit. So I used one for the cold pack, and then realized that they do have water inside of them, so they have a water pack. So I cut the second one open and decided that was going to be my super emergency water pack if I need water. Drained that into one of my Gatorade bottles, held it tight at the end of the day. At this point, around 3:30 is when the cloud cover started to roll in a little bit, so I could get out of there. I'm in pretty bad shape. Temperature was over 100, no doubt about that. And it's supposed to only peaked out about 98, but that's back in town, and I'm a pretty good distance from town. I had already taken the Gatorade bottles that I bring with me, tapped them down to get all the liquid out of them into the caps, licked the caps clean pretty much from inside. I started back out, following that blue line there across on the bottom of the screen. Not going very far, a couple hundred feet, well, a couple hundred yards at a time. Towards the end I was going 1/10 of a mile at a time, the best I could do. That little hitch there, that line where I kind of go back towards UUM 111, there's actually a shaded spot in that wash, and I just needed to get some serious. The cloud cover parted for a few minutes, so I went and hopped in that wash where there was some shade, sat there for about 30 minutes. And once the shade kind of came back in, I started moving my way out. You can see the cloud cover, how dark and bad the clouds were getting. By the time that I took that picture of the cloud cover in the background, I was back right about almost to where the orange and blue line crossed there. So I was sitting somewhere in there underneath the shade tree, and Um, Slightly delirious a little bit, stumbling pretty bad. Walking, when I started walking, I started getting a little nauseous. All bad signs: overheating and dehydration, pretty significant, because I was sweating the entire time. When I had what's it called? I can't even think today. I'm still off a little little loopy today still. Like I said, it's like having a bad hangover. Got sunburned, even though I used spray tan stuff. Not spray tan, sunblock, but sweated it all off. My hands and my arms are burnt. My nose is burnt. My eyes are still crusty. Actually, when I got home last night and got to taking a shower, I didn't even realize I had salt crust all across my eyes from sweating. It was bad. So finally, that last little loop is there going towards the east. Looped up over that. Somewhere towards the peak of that loop is where it started getting pretty windy, and that was pretty much godsend right there. Cool breeze, felt great. Started coming down that last piece there to the south. Right about where I made that corner to come out going due east is where it started to rain. Big heavy drops. I'll tell you what kind of bad shape I was in. The drops that were hitting my hard hat, I took my hard hat off a couple times, like twice, and licked the water off there. I was in pretty bad shape, and that was fantastic just to have something. My tongue was all just super dry, stuck to the top of my mouth. Finally made it out back to the truck where that blue line ends. Drank 2 Gatorades and 2 waters probably in 20 minutes as I was trying to get out because the rain was pretty bad. Didn't have to urinate at all. Drank some more Gatorade on the way home. Water and stuff last night. Got a bite to eat. Went to sleep about 9:30 last night. Slept till about 10 o'clock today. Still pretty bad shape, but to be expected from that. Then I actually had to drive out during the flash flood on top of everything else because the rain was so heavy. So I got out there in pretty good time. Got out of there at pretty good time at least. So, desert, like I mentioned, she can be cruel. You make a mistake, she might forgive you, but being able to use your brains and the best you can and think clearly to get a good plan of attack to get out of there is one thing's going to save you. And I will say this, that it was in bad enough shape that when I was sitting underneath that tree, I made a conscious effort to only breathe out of my nose. You breathe through your mouth, you dehydrate faster. So that's one of the things that kind of helped me out quite a bit, was just breathing through my nose straight for 5 hours, not moving, sitting really still, just trying to survive the heat and surviving the dehydration that was ongoing. But it was not a lot of fun. But I would have taken a video at some point in time of that, but I was saving my battery in my phone, even though I have a backup. I can charge my phone twice. And I was still conserving that. But it was not a lot of fun. Let's just say if I had to do that, I wouldn't do that hike. The blue line, the orange to the blue, if I had to do that whole thing, there's no way you could convince me to do that on purpose this time of year. There's no way. Even with twice the liquid I carried, I wouldn't do it. So a little bit of luck, we survived. Could have been a lot worse. If it had been 5 degrees hotter, I would have called for a rescue. It was just in pretty bad shape. I didn't end up a statistic, so we're in good. That's the best part of the day, you can say. All right, bye bye.